Okay guys, we're going to look at the polar coordinates and polar graphs worksheet here. Remember, rectangular is the form that we're used to, and those are coordinates are in xy. So polar coordinates, when we have them, they're in the form of r comma theta, which is our radius and then the angle. Alright, so example 1 says graph these polar coordinates. So the first one I'm going to go over here so we can just see the grid. We have p, which is at 4, and then 5 pi over 3. So we need to think about 5 pi over 3. So here it is right here. So we need to go all the way around here, and we need to move out 4 clicks. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So that would be where point P is. Point Q is at 3 and then 7 pi over 6. So we find 7 pi over 6. There it is. And we need to move out with a radius of 3. So 1, 2, 3. So right there, that's ordered pair Q. R is at -2 and then 5 pi over 4. So we need to find 5 pi over 4. So there's 1 pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, 3 pi over 4, 4 pi over 4, 5 pi over 4 right there. But we need to move -2. So that means we need to move in the opposite direction too. So we go 1, 2, so right there, that's our ordered pair R. And then 1 comma negative pi over 3. So if we need to move negative pi over 3, that means we need to move in the clockwise manner. So pi over 3 is right here. So going down that way, that would be this one right here. So there's our negative pi over 3, and we need to go 1 out from it. So right there, right here is our point S, as in Sam. So in pre-cal, we learned a couple things about polar coordinates and trigonometry. Specifically, and so we're going to sketch a triangle over here. So like if we have a right triangle here, there's our right triangle, and we have this angle right here, which is theta. And this would be R. And so this ordered pair in polar coordinates, that would be R comma theta. Now it's also important to note that in rectangular coordinates, this would be X comma Y, because we had to move over X units and we had to move up Y units. Alright, so in pre-cal, we learned, using this picture here, that cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, or in this case, x over r. We learned sine is opposite over hypotenuse, or in this case, y over r. And then tangent is opposite over adjacent, so in this picture it would be y over x. So then using that idea, if we needed to figure out what x was, we would have to multiply both sides by r. So x is r times the cosine of theta. Sine is r times the sine of theta. And then down here we have our Pythagorean theorem, x squared plus y squared is equal to r squared. So if we needed to find r, that would be the square root of x squared plus y squared. Alright, keep it on going here. If we want to convert 2 comma 5 pi over 6 to rectangular, we need to remember that x, or that this is a radius and this is our angle. So our x is going to be our radius times times the cosine of our angle. So this would be 2 times the cosine of 5 pi over 6. And then this would be 2 times the sine of 5 pi over 6. And then we can further simplify that. The cosine of 5 pi over 6, if we look at our unit circle up there, the cosine, that would be the longer one, which is root 3 over 2, and then times 2 would just end up being root 3. And then this one is 2 times the sine of 5 pi over 6, and that's the short one, which should be 1/2, so 2 times 1/2 would just be 1. So there's our rectangular ordered pair here. Example 3, convert the rectangular pair 3, -3 into polar coordinates. So what we need to think about here is that we've gone right 3, and then we've gone down a -3. So 3 and then -3. So there's our r right there. So we need to say that r squared is equal to 3 squared plus -3 squared. 3 squared is 9, and then -3 squared is 9. So r squared is 9 plus 9, which is 18. So r is the square root of 18, which is the same thing. That would be 9 times 2, so 3 square root of 2. All right, and then we also need to think about what kind of an angle that would be if we, have this as the origin here. What kind of angle would that be? So, if it's got an isosceles triangle to it, that's a 45-degree angle. So we're counting by the pi over 4s. So we went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pi over 4s. So our polar coordinate for this would be 3 radical 2, comma 7 pi over 4 would be one possible equation for that. I'm going to stop this video here and start it up again.